All right, I'm live and I'm excited to share today. It is, what is today? Today is Tuesday? Yeah, today's Tuesday. And excited, obviously, about sharing today on this live. So if you're just joining us, thanks so much for being on. I got my weird headset on so you all can hear me. I'm streaming on my YouTube and also my Facebook. Today I just was on my heart is relationships and what definitely you can get out of relationships and how important it is for relationships, obviously, in the social distancing. So that's what the subject I'm going to talk about today. So if you're having a little bit of loneliness, if you feel a little bit upset, maybe at your spouse for no apparent reason, maybe you're just really wanting some human connection, maybe you're missing your friends and your family, of course, like we all are in this time of social distancing, then I have definitely a message for each and every one of you today. So if you're just joining us, thanks so much for being on. Welcome. Definitely comment. Let me know where you're watching in from, and one thing that you're grateful for today, as you might be watching this. Obviously, we all can look to something that we're grateful for. So one of the things that really has come up for my life is really the interesting subject of relationships. And relationships, we've all heard probably from our parents that birds of a feather flock together. We've all heard that, and relationships can either make us or break us. And we definitely, I think, come to the conclusion as adults that that is so true. Who you pick for your spouse is very important. Who you pick as your best friend is really important. And you might not have really kind of pondered this, but if you really pause, maybe today is a good time, tonight, as you watch me this evening, kind of just stop and really ask yourself this question: is why are relationships so important to my future? And why are relationships something that could make me or break me? Well, I think we have to just understand that there's always going to be a battle in our relationships. We've all been let down by our friends. We've all been let down by a girlfriend or a boyfriend or even a spouse. We've all been broken up with. We've all had that bad friend who we thought they were a good friend until, boom, we caught them talking behind our back. So as adults, what are we doing right now in the social distancing that's allowing us to not fall into this loneliness where we just don't know what to do? We don't know how long this lasts. I think this is such a great time to audit your inner circle. Okay, so let me just kind of set this up for you. So you're sitting by yourself at home, or you're with your family. You might not be able to go out other than to the grocery store or the pharmacy, and you have a lot of time on your hands. So let me ask you this question. Before this all started, before the coronavirus, before this all started and happened, who was your inner circle? Who were the 5 key friends or the 3 key friends, or who was the people that you talk with the most? Now, if you're a parent, you might say, well, I don't really have really close friends. And that might be a problem for you as well, because you probably long for that. And our social life is one of the top 6 things in our whole life. We have our physical life, we have our social life, we have our interpersonal relationships. We also have our finances and our spiritual life and our mental health. So one of the things that anytime that you're in a battle with your relationships, I think you really have to really return to the battle at hand. And nothing is going to shape your life more than people. I wrote this in my book, You versus Your Relationships. If we just come to the conclusion that nothing is going to shape your life more than people, and if we understand that if we can return to the battle at hand, if you're struggling right now with relationships, or you want to have more effective relationships, or relationships that you are adding value and they are adding value, and you're actually doing big things together, and you're also not in relationships where everyone is texting negative things, you're not feeding the fear of being in the coronavirus right now, but you're actually feeding the faith, and you're around people of faith, you're around people of great intellect, and people that are wanting in choosing to grow, as opposed to the same old friends that you had in high school that basically have the same boring life, and the weekends are their getaway and the work days are just they're trying to get by, whatever it is. We have to come to the conclusion that nothing is going to shape your life more than people. That's number one. So since you have time to maybe reflect on this, what I would encourage you to do, an action step, is to look back at maybe this past 3 months of 2020. We're already almost at the end of March. So January, February, and of course, before this all happened in America, who were the people that really were shaping your life around you? Because you have to understand, one negative text message, one negative email, maybe it's an ex that you haven't blocked. Maybe it is, I'm not saying you should, but maybe you should. Maybe it's just someone that's always jealous of you, and no matter what you try to do, they're always trying to pull you down. So I pray that you don't have friends like this, but there are people that do, and they might not even have the self-awareness or realize that these are the people that have been pulling them down to try to rise up. So if we're all trying to rise up out of this, but we're constantly hearing from our friends, family, and neighbors, even virtually through maybe FaceTime or through a text message or whatever it is, and we're constantly getting this is doomsday, this is the end of the world, what's going on, it's not going to brighten your day. It's not going to make you feel really, really good. But if you're lucky enough and you have to fight for these relationships, so if you really want to redefine the battle, what do we got to do? When it comes to you and your relationships, you must be willing to fight. Notice the word fight. It's not kind of subtle. The word is fight. You got to be willing to fight for the good ones and remove yourself from the toxic ones. And it's easier said than done. Because how many of you have ever just decided one day that, I'm going to literally audit everyone in my inner circle that's not bringing me growth, that's not enhancing my life, that's not increasing my life. And of course, you doing the same. And you have to audit them, audit that and have to start to remove these negative people in your life. It says the old adage, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. King Solomon said, and more directly, some 4,000 years ago, he said, he who walks with the wise grows wise, but the friend of fools suffers harm. The friend of fools suffers harm. So if you're a friend of fools, what is a fool, in my opinion, right at this moment? And again, I'm not trying to call anyone a fool. I'm not trying to call someone out right now, but I'm thinking someone that might be foolish right now, maybe they don't even realize it, is someone that's just sitting around and waiting for our world to get better. They're just waiting around. They're just kind of, taking in all the negative news. They're texting, they're feeding the fear, they're feeding the fear, they're feeding the fear. But a wise man and a wise woman right now is not just sitting around. I mean, I just got done with a workout. I'm a little still out of breath, even though I kind of showered and got ready for this. I'm still kind of out of breath. I ran and I did all these things outside because finally the sun came out in Illinois. And that's a wise thing, just that choice alone, working out. Maybe you have friends that you're connecting with, that you're keeping accountability if they're working out and you're working out. Maybe you're in the morning, you're having accountability for doing your devotions or reading the Bible or having some alone time or some meditation time that you're being held accountable for. Not in a bad way, but you're just choosing to surround yourself with wise people, because the wisest man ever to walk this earth says, he who walks with the wise grows wise. But the friends of fools suffers harm. So it's truer than we like to admit. The company that you keep can bring you up or it can bring you down, make you better or make you worse. If you don't believe me, obviously, then you're just going to have to look at what happens when you choose, unwisely. I know that Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are billionaires, but these two are best friends. They are hanging out all the time. They're always collaborating together. And if you ever notice millionaires and even billionaires, people that are successful financially, people that are successful in business, they're not hanging out with people that are not successful. I've never really met someone that's super successful. I'm not talking about at a party. I'm not talking about just, they're hanging out once, but I'm talking about every day. They're associating themselves with other successful people. So iron sharpens iron. So wrapping up here, I would just say this is a time that if you take initiative and invest in relationships that either build you up or build others up, it's one of the wisest things that you can ever do. So you might say, well, Todd, how do I do that? And obviously relationships are a two-way street. So often the selfishness of our human nature jeopardizes the stability of our connections. But at the end of the day, look what's happening with our country. Look what's happening with the world. We've come to this very empathetic place. We've come to this place where we need people. If it wasn't for people wouldn't be surviving some of this coronavirus. If it wasn't for nurses, if it wasn't for doctors that really cared about people, our world would be in a way more devastating place right now. So you have to understand, one of the most important things in our lives is relationships, whether it's in business, whether it's in sports, whether it's in your jobs, your careers, whether it's in your family, your children also, the people that they hang out with. So I would just say, what's an action step that I can do right now in order for me to have clarity, in order for me to shift the way that I perceive relationships? Maybe I can gain better relationships. Maybe I can get rid of the toxic relationships that I have because it just causes me stress. It causes the people around me stress. I would say, here's the action steps. You ready for this? Number one, in the midst of this quarantine, I think it's a wonderful time for you to literally, and I know this is going to be a tough one for a lot of you. It's a tough one for me. It's literally forgiveness. Okay, so forgiveness. So who can you forgive even if they hurt you? Who can you forgive? Now, I will say, if you forgive somebody, whether it's an ex, whether it's someone that hurt you, whether it's someone that really has said some nasty things about you, whether it's someone who talked about behind you in your back, whatever, I would say while you're quarantined in your house, I would even write a list. You don't have to necessarily tell them. You don't have to like text them or call them and say, look, I forgive you, okay? But you can forgive them in your mind. Whoever did you wrong, make a list, right? So in the movies, what do we see in the movies? We see in the movies revenge. I'm going to get revenge on these people. We saw the funny Billy Madison movie at the very end where that funny guy, the older guy, he was making a list of people that he's going to kill or whatever. And Adam Sandler's character calls him up or whatever. I forget the actual movie. I haven't seen it in years, but he basically takes some people off the list who were kind to them that were bullies, back when he was in high school. And I don't think that ever works. I don't think revenge ever works. Even if you got revenge on somebody, or if you treated someone just as bad as they treated you because you're so mad at them and you're just like, I want revenge, right? Well, the villain never wins in any movie. So the villain also never wins in real life. Even though they might be winning, at the end, they're not going to win. So what wins? Love, kindness, humility, and forgiveness. So, by the way, you forgive not just for them, but you forgive mostly for yourself. So unforgiveness and bitterness are toxic emotions. It's like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. We've all heard that, right? But it's true. Forgive those that have hurt you, not for their sake, but for yours. It's not easy, but the weight of these toxic emotions will affect all of your relationships if they're not dealt with. And that's such a great thing to think about, because if you don't forgive, you're going to bring in that toxic emotion into your current relationship that might be really good right now. So you don't want any toxins in your body, nor do you want any toxins in your current relationship, in your marriage, in your boyfriend and girlfriend relationship, in your significant other relationship, etc. Okay? It's not easy. Okay? It's definitely not easy. But the weight of those toxic emotions will affect all of your relationships that they're not dealt with. Okay? Number 2, nourish. Okay, these are action steps. These are things that you can take anytime I do a Facebook Live, and comment below. What are you going to take action on? How are you going to forgive? How are you going to remove the toxic relationships out of your life and build significant relationships built on trust, built on value, built on integrity? Nourish. Each day, take time to share with at least 5 people. This is what I do, and this is what I teach my clients. How grateful you are for them and the value they add to your life. So imagine if you text 5 people every day and you just said, hey, I'm so grateful for you. I know we're in the midst of a quarantine, but I remember a month ago, or I remember 2 months ago, or last year, remember when you did something so kind to me, you did something so nice. I definitely didn't forget it. I just want to say I'm grateful for your friendship. I'm grateful for basically what you do, what you mean to me. I really appreciate it. Now, what you're going to find is so cool, because I've been doing this for 5 years. And I've been doing it a lot, even with my clients. And the reaction that you get back out of these is just astronomically awesome, because you get obviously that cool text back that, oh my gosh, thank you. I needed to hear this. I'm just been so bored, or I've been a little bit depressed lately. I needed this pick me up. Man, that just meant the world to me. So think about how you're going to feel, and you're not doing it just to get something out of it, but you're doing it organically just so that you can really share your gratefulness. But you're definitely going to receive back. When you give, you're always going to get back, always. You're not doing it, you're not intending it, but you're always going to get back when you give, okay? Truly and authentically. And then the last thing is build. So write down your inner circle of friends. And next to their name, write down how you can serve and help them. Think about that. How can you serve and help your friends right now in the time of need? Maybe they need food. Maybe they live in a different state. Maybe their grocery stores aren't as filled as your grocery stores. Maybe you can send them some food. Maybe you can buy them some online stuff. Just you don't even have to tell them, as long as you know their address. Just think about one thing a day that you can do for another person. Of course, I would start with your spouse. I would start with your inner circle. I would start with the people that matter to you most, of course, and then work yourself around. So make a list and write down your inner circle of friends, and next to the name, write down how you can serve and help them. To build solid relationships, you must first be willing to give your best before you can get the best in return. Okay, you must be willing to give your best before you can get the best in return. Be selfless, not a selfish friend, family member, spouse, sibling, etc. So I would just say, what can you do today coming out of this in the battle of you versus your relationships while you're quarantined? For me, I just look at this as a massive, massive opportunity for us to get our lives right, to get our lives in check, to get alignment. I mean, I'll kind of leave you with this. Can you imagine what's going to happen whenever this is over, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months, whenever it is, Lord willing, it's over soon. Can you imagine the line of people going to be in at restaurants? And when the servers, how much we're going to respect the servers. Maybe before all this, when we went to restaurants, we're just like, oh, our service isn't good enough. Or, oh my gosh, when are they bringing the water, for goodness sakes? It's already been 5 minutes. Or I can't get a drink at the bar. Oh my gosh, it's been 3 minutes. Can you imagine the perspective of the world, not just in this country, but the world, when restaurants open again, when your local coffee shop opens again, when you can go to a movie and you have the employees waiting on you hand and foot, how much respect that you're going to have for them? Can you imagine when you, even now, but when you go to the doctors and how much respect you have for nurses and how much respect that you have for doctors? Can you imagine what our world's going to be like when we get back to the real world and we don't care if we wait in line for restaurants? We don't care, if we have to wait, for a barista at Starbucks anymore. We don't care if we have to fight crowds at the mall because we're so encouraged that we know where we came from. We know the life that we had being quarantined. So this is a time not waiting for that to happen. This is a time to build momentum in the fact that you appreciate and that you're grateful for other people. This is a time that you really can start the gratefulness now. Who are you grateful for? Reach out to somebody tonight. 5 people a day. Super simple to do, easy also not to do. It's easy to think of ourselves. It's easy to be selfish. It's easy to worry about the future. It's easy to have woe is me moments. But I promise you, it's hard to have woe is me moments when we're only thinking about others, when we're selfishly thinking about what can I do today for someone else? How can I radically change someone else's life? Or how can I radically make an imprint on someone else's life today? Instead of asking what people, asking, hey, what can you do for me? What does John F. Kennedy say in the 1960 speech for America? Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And that resonates with me so much when it comes to people. So don't ask people what they can do for you. Always ask what you can do for people, because once you need help, by the way, it's nothing wrong with asking. You can ask, but it's always better to ask when you need help, when you're always giving first, okay? So that's how you build community. That's how you build family. That's how you build leadership. And that's all that we should do, including myself. And of course, I'm only motivating and inspiring myself right now to do it even more than I'm doing, and thinking about how I can really reach out to people in this time of need right now more than ever, okay? Because people really need it. And honestly, just an encouraging word, just an encouraging note that you can pop in the mail, somebody that's really ticking you off, somebody that really is giving you so much pain, forgive them. But just remember, take action to block them out of your life, because anyone that is toxic and you've already forgiven, you've already been kind, and they're simply not showing kindness back, hey, you have the block button in most cases. You can block them and you can just move on. And sometimes this might not be easy to block someone that you've loved before or you've cared about before. But if they're abusive, or if they're emotionally abusive, verbally abusive, and God forbid they're physically abusive, you don't deserve it. Nobody does. So search it in your heart to love yourself enough to walk away, and don't be in something that you think is safe when it really isn't, okay? So thank you so much for watching this. It really makes me excited to share, and anything that I could do to help, obviously that's what I'm here for. So appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. I'm going to be on every single day, Monday through Friday. I got Mark Victor Hansen coming on Thursday. We got a guest speaker tomorrow. I'm going to start really interviewing some amazing people here on this kind of podcast, whatever you want to call it, on my channels, on social media and YouTube. So thanks so much for being on, guys. I really do appreciate it.